This is a generator. This is a huge solar array. And these are some batteries. But is a diesel generator the ultimate solution for going fully off-grid? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Now, we made quite a mistake in this video and it's taken us a while to figure out the solution. So make sure you watch the end of the video to find out what mistake we made and how we got around it. Now, over the years, we've done a ton of projects at this property, from upgrading the solar panels to installing battery storage, an EV charger, installing an even bigger battery storage system, and a backup gateway to allow this property to run off grid for a certain number of hours if there is a power cut. But today, the generator install that we're just completing is the cherry on top that allows the customer to basically go off grid infinitely if they want to. Now, I'll leave a link below to a playlist of all of the other projects that we've done here, because I'm not going to go too much into depth about all of the various devices that we've installed here. We're really going to focus on the generator today and how it works in connection with the Sigenergy system, the batteries, the solar and the gateway to set this up as the perfect off-grid system. So welcome to the plant room, and this is essentially the heart of the system where everything talks to each other and all of the power is juggled. We've been learning a little bit as we go, trying to figure it out. There've been a few teething problems, but we finally got to the point where this system is working and the generator is available to use whenever the customer needs it. Now, you've seen that he's got a huge amount of battery storage already, and that is the first line of defense. So this gateway is where all of the power for the house comes through. So inside the gateway here, we've got the main grid connection, we've got a smart port, and in this case our solar PV is connected because we've got a third-party solar edge inverter in this particular situation. We've got a surge protection device, and then backup. The backup side powers the entire house. Heat pump, EV chargers, and all of the other stuff, like they've got an 𝐏𝐻𝐸 and lots of electrical devices that use a lot of power. And then these two ports are the two inverters for the two stacks of Sigenergy batteries. Each one is a 25 kilowatt three-phase inverter with 48 kilowatt hours of battery storage underneath it. So we've got 96 kilowatt hours of storage there. And that, like I say, is the first line of defense. So in a grid outage, this gateway will instantaneously switch the power over to run from the batteries. Those batteries will discharge as much power as the customer needs for a certain amount of time and keep the house running. Now, for this particular property, with his usage, he does use quite a lot of power. In summer, it's not too bad, but in winter with the three-phase heat pump running, he could quite quickly burn through that battery power in 4, 5, maybe 6 hours. So for a prolonged power cut that lasts maybe 8 hours or more, extra power is needed, and that's where the generator comes in. Now, this is the generator ATS, or automatic transfer switch, and in a traditional setup where you've just got a generator for backup power, this is what you'd use. The main power to the house goes through this, so you've got your tails in and then your tails out to the rest of the house, and then the generator connects into this too, and what it does is detects when there's a loss of power, sends a signal to start the generator ramps up, and when the generator's ready and power's available, it'll automatically switch over, cut off the connection to the grid, and the house will run from the generator. But that can take a few minutes to basically go from being on grid to off grid with generator power. So there's going to be an interruption. Whereas with the UPS style battery system that we've got from Sigenergy, the switchover is instantaneous. And our goal with this system is to pair the two together to create a harmonious pairing where the UPS kicks in instantly so he never loses power, but then when he needs more power for longer, he's got the generator as a backup too. But that's what's so complicated about this system, because if you were just installing a generator into a Sigenergy backup system, what you would do is connect it to the gateway normally using the smart port. However, in this case, we can't, because our smart port is used by our third-party inverter. So that means we've got to use the ATS, and we've got to make sure that the ATS and the gateway talk to each other and the generator so that everything works seamlessly together. And that's what's been a bit of a headache, to be honest. So welcome to the inside of our ATS, automatic transfer switch. Essentially in here what we've got is our mains power coming in from the grid, via the meter and the main isolator through this contactor here. Then we've got another contactor which has the connection to the generator, and the idea is that this system will automatically detect a loss of grid power. It will cut out the contactor to the grid, switch in the contactor to the generator when the generator is ready. But the generator takes a little bit of time to ramp up, so all of this gubbins in here, the electronics and the various circuitry in here, basically manages how all of that works and talks to each other. And then we've got a comms cable from here to our gateway to tell the gateway what the state is, whether we're in generator mode or grid mode. And then from the gateway to the generator, we've also got a comms cable, and we're able to communicate with and power and control the generator via digital inputs and digital outputs, which are simply signals that are sent via a little twisted pair wire. We run a cat cable out there and a cat cable here, and all of that does the communication and enables the customer to turn the generator on and off via his app, or create automatic controls for it, which is really interesting. I've just got the Sigenergy app up, and there's this weird alert that's just popped up. It's telling me that, bizarrely, 74.3% of you who watch our videos regularly haven't subscribed yet. And that's just not good enough. So if you enjoy our videos, and this isn't the first one that you've watched, it really helps if you hit that subscribe button. It helps our channel to grow so that we can do more great videos for you guys, but it also helps you to make sure you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks for subscribing. So this is a Pramac 70 kVA generator, and we sized it this way because the customer uses a lot of power and wants to be able to charge the batteries from the generator as well. So it's going to be able to output 70 to 80 kilowatts of power when needed. Almost the equivalent to a 100 amp three-phase supply basically, which is what we've got at the property. Now, one of the reasons we chose this Pramac generator is that it has a Perkins engine in it, which Perkins engines are British made engines, really good quality, and the customer was really, particular about, he wanted something that's going to be good quality and reliable and that's going to last a long time. And it was quite an interesting process to get it all lifted into place and everything. This concrete base had to be built so that it's got a solid foundation. We had to run cables from the house to here in a duct. We've got the power cable and the communications cables which had to be run in. And then the customers built this little protective cover as well, which just stops it getting overly covered in lichen and things like that. If you get too much rain on it, although it is obviously designed to be outside, with these bolts on the top, you could potentially get it starting to rust, etc. over time. So it's an ideal setup this. It's going to be here to last for a long time and provide backup power to the customer in emergency situations, or even if he one day gets fed up with being connected to the grid and just wants to go off grid completely. With the amount of solar panels and batteries that he's got, and then this, he's basically able to go infinitely off grid now if he wants to, which is awesome. So in here we've got the control panel for the generator, and you can go through all of the settings. It's a fairly simple menu, but things you need to know about it are that you need to be able to check the fuel level, etc. Obviously this can take about 80 litres of diesel, so it's got a fuel sensor in here, and you can check the fuel and it'll have an alarm that will go off if the fuel level gets low. Also, it does need regular servicing, so it'll have an alarm that goes off when it needs servicing, ideally once a year or 250 hours of run time, whichever comes first. In this case it's probably going to be once a year realistically, but just to keep it all well maintained and make sure that it can be relied on for a long time, it needs to be serviced regularly. And check this out. So as well as having this custom made cover built, the customer's had this custom made exhaust built, because obviously the exhaust would have just come straight out under this cover. So he's had this lovely custom built piece of metal work done to exhaust the fumes outside of the cover, which is a really nice touch. So the idea here is that when the batteries get to below a certain level of charge during an off-grid situation, the generator will automatically kick in and allow the house to continue running even if the batteries have run out. But the cool thing about it too is that because the generator is so powerful, we can actually use any excess power over and above what's needed in a house to top the batteries back up, and then when they get up to a certain level of charge once again, the generator can turn off and the batteries can take over the running of the house until they get back to a low state of charge. So it enables a really harmonious relationship between the batteries and the generator, and the generator will only be needed when the batteries are depleted below, say, 10%, and then it will kick in and work its magic. So here in the Sigenergy app, we can see our generator. We can turn it on manually if we want to with the click of a button. But if we want to, we can go into the settings, we can change it from manual to automatic, and then what we can do is set the battery cut-off state of charge. We can set minimum and maximum power duty, and we can even do interesting options like load condition, for example. So if we've got a situation where the supply to the house is not powerful enough and we want to kick the generator in to provide extra power, we can do that. Or we can go for a time of use setting where it turns the generator on during certain times of the day, or automatically turns on when the state of charge of the batteries gets below, say, 10%. All of the specs for what's going on in the generator can be seen here. We can see the voltage on each phase, the current, so how much the generator is producing in terms of load, the active power on each phase and reactive power as well, the frequency and the phase sequence, and then the status of the grid side contactor. And we can also see the total production of the generator and how much production we've done today using our generator. So we've talked about the how, but what about the why? Why would you want a system like this? Well, it could be that you have a lot of power cuts, sometimes prolonged power cuts over days, and you need a generator to give you that energy security, but you don't want to just be burning diesel all the time. It needs to be there as an emergency provision, with solar and battery storage being your primary reserve power. It could be that you want to go completely off grid and stick it to the man, like more and more people are wanting to do now, in which case a generator is often the only way to ensure that you're going to be able to have power 24/7. The reason for that is that no matter how many solar panels and how much battery storage you've got, there are going to be days when the sun's not shining enough, when it snows and covers the panels, or, to be honest, just that most people don't have enough space to fit so many solar panels to generate their entire house's energy needs in the depth of winter. All of that means that a generator needs to be there as a backup to cover those outliers on days when your solar's not generating enough or you need that extra backup power. And there's one more scenario that we're coming across more and more now, which is this. The grid is often restricted. We've got customers who ask us to install big solar and battery storage installations, and they find out when we put the G99 application in that the grid is just not going to allow them to connect a system of that size. So their only choice is either to reduce the system down to a system that's too small for what they really need, or to go completely off grid, and then they can fit as big a system as they want. And again, that's where, in that off-grid situation, a generator is often needed to give that 24/7 backup support when you're mostly relying on solar and batteries, just for the odd days where a big solar and battery system can't quite cut it and you need that backup power. So as you can see, this is the ATS that we fitted at the start of this generator project, and it's not on site anymore, it's here at Artisan HQ. So what has happened? Well, it's been a bit of a saga. So basically we wired it all through this ATS, and then we found out that this ATS does not have digital inputs and digital outputs. And the Sigenergy system needs digital inputs and digital outputs to be able to communicate with the generator. So we've had to reconfigure the wiring from scratch. We've had to wire the generator directly into the smart port of the Sigenergy gateway, and that way we could connect the communications of the generator to the digital inputs and outputs of the Sigenergy gateway, so the Sigenergy gateway can talk directly to the generator. But that's meant that we've had to reconfigure everything else because the third-party solar was connected to the smart port of the gateway, so we've had to remove that. We've had to connect that before the gateway and then install 2 power sensors in order for us to still see what the solar is doing and what the grid is doing. It's been a bit of a headache to reconfigure it all, but it is working now. and it's been a big learning exercise for us, and hopefully for those of you who are trying to do a similar system, you can learn from our mistakes. So now we're running on pure generator power. The grid is cut off, the generator is providing all the power to the home and is charging up the batteries. And that's the idea behind this system, is that the batteries will run down to about 5% state of charge, and then when they get to that point, the generator will kick in and take over, which means that this customer has complete peace of mind that no matter what the situation is, when the grid cuts out, they've still got power, they can heat their home, they can run all of the essential things in their house. And in fact, it'll be like they were still connected to the grid. They won't even notice. It's a seamless transition, other than the noise of a generator in the background when the generator is running. So it's a super cool system, and we're really excited that we finally managed to get it up and running. It has been a bit of a tricky one to finally configure this system because there's so many parts to it. But it is one of the first setups like this in the UK. And if you'd like to have a similar system, we'd love to help you and give you a quote. There'll be a link below where you can get a quote from us. So here in the plant room, we've got our isolator switch for the generator. So the armoured cable that goes out and feeds the generator comes through this isolator switch. That just gives a point of safety isolation before it gets to the gateway. And then we've wired the generator into the smart port in the gateway. So what that means is that with a 2-wire start that is via a data cable that runs from the gateway to the generator will automatically start up when the battery state of charge gets to a certain level, and all of that is set up within the Sigenergy app. But the customer can also choose to have manual start if they want to, and you literally just press a button on the app and the generator starts up. It's really, really clever. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have and you'd like a quote for a similar system, there's a link down below where you can find out more about our services. But either way, thanks for watching, and why not settle in and watch one of these 2 videos that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy.